In this video, I'll showcase 10 upcoming indie RPGs that are scheduled for release in 2020. This year is gonna be super heavy with all manner of indie RPG releases, and these are just 10 of the very promising titles that I've been following for a while. I can almost guarantee that there will be at least a couple of titles on my list that you have not yet heard of. If this is the first time on my channel, welcome. I'm Steven Hansen's geek culture analyst, role-playing extraordinaire. I bring you indie RPG, strategy and city builder reviews, but today I'm doing something special, so make sure to subscribe if you enjoy what I'm trying to build here. If you're already a subscriber, welcome back, and remember to click that bell button, it really helps a lot. So let's get this list going. SKALD against the Black Priory proposes a return to seminal RPG classics like the Ultima and Gold Box series in terms of its aesthetic and overall perspective approach, but at the same time it is aware that modern day expectations in terms of narrative possibilities are considerably more developed than they were back in the 1980s. As such, SKALD will feature dynamic dialogue trees as well as interactive narrative prompts. It also promises to feature tactical turn-based combat and a party of up to 6 characters. All of this will be framed in very era-appropriate 8-bit pixel art that will come with an optional CRT filter. But I also think the developer might be adding some extra bells and whistles to the animations just to make better use of modern capabilities. SKALD against the Black Priory is set for release during the summer of 2020, and I am super interested in checking it out for reasons that will become obvious as the year goes on. Realms Beyond: Ashes of the Fallen is another title that I'm super interested in playing, but for other reasons than SKALD. At first glance, Realms Beyond is just another fantasy set RPG with turn-based combat and pretty graphics, sure, but what sets this one apart from other similar offerings is that it is based on the Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 revised ruleset. Now, that may not mean a lot to someone who has never played D&D or someone who jumped into it after 4th edition, but D&D 3.5 revised was the ruleset I played D&D with, the ruleset I DM'd in and I lived with for many years. So I am quite excited about this game. And since I mentioned the pretty graphics, it should be noted that the game is built with a custom engine, which has to be mentioned nowadays is pretty damn cool and intensely time consuming. The game's world promises to be vast, featuring complex stories and world building, and you will also be able to create your own adventures and campaigns. Realms Beyond: Ashes of the Fallen is set for release during the first half of 2020. Death Trash is one of the more striking visual titles on this list. It is an action RPG which takes science fiction, post-apocalyptic themes, cosmic horror and cyberpunk, throws them into a blender and uses the resulting mass of gore to paint terrible and wonderfully grotesque pixel art flesh monsters that are abominations to both man and the cosmos. This game promises to be abso-fucking-lutely fucking insane with its handcrafted levels, dialogue trees, stealth options, ranged and melee combat, crafting system and a skill tree which features puking as a skill. Did I mention it also has robots? There's also robots. If I haven't convinced you yet and what you've been seeing on the screen hasn't convinced you, I don't think anything will. Death Trash is set for release during the first half of 2020. Zoria: Age of Shattering is visually reminiscent of Divinity: Original Sin, and that is something to be applauded since this is an indie effort with considerably less resources at their disposal than Larian's. The game will be a story-driven affair with turn-based tactical combat and something extra. It wouldn't be on my list if it didn't have something extra. In this case, it's base building and character management. You will be able to build new facilities in your base, upgrade existing ones, and have to manage your resources in order to expand and improve it. Characters will have both combat and exploration skills, not to mention a crafting system at your disposal to create buttloads of potions, weapons, and who knows what else you'll find recipes for in the mystical world of Zoria. Zoria: Age of Shattering is scheduled to be released sometime around mid-2020. The Waylanders promises to bring back the spirit of the first Dragon Age game, being designed around party-based tactical combat in which the companions are crucial to the role-playing experience. The twist that this game brings to the recipe is that it will feature time travel between two different eras, allowing you to explore the same place but at wildly different times. The game will feature multiple endings based on player decisions and music composed by Inan Zur. Another reason why I'm keeping an eye on this game is because one of its writers is Chris Avallone. Chris Avallone has written and or helped design titles like Fallout 2, Fallout New Vegas and its DLCs, Pillars of Eternity, Tyranny, Divinity Original Sin 2, Icewind Dale, Baldur's Gate, and the list of massively important RPGs continues. The Waylanders is planned for a 2020 release. Dark Envoy is the second title on the list that owes a debt of inspiration to the Divinity series, but it also adds in some XCOM style turn-based tactical combat to create its own unique feel, as well as some non-linear world exploration akin to that from FTL. Exploration will be real time, while combat will be turn-based. The devs say that the combat won't feature RNG, and you'll have to rely on your tactical and party building skills to succeed. I have to say that the no RNG in terms of combat gives me hope that the most frustrating parts of XCOM's combat can be completely avoided. Some of the 15 character classes can only be unlocked through exploring the world or particular quest chains. Also, there will be local and world events randomly happening, so you won't get to see everything the game has to offer in one playthrough. Dark Envoy is a very intriguing title set for release sometime during 2020. The Iron Oath caught my attention a long time ago thanks to its pixel art aesthetics. If you've been following my channel for any period of time, you'll know that I'm a big fan and mark for pixel art in general. The game is a turn-based tactical RPG that will blend the tactical combat aspect with character development, guild management, and a dynamic and varied world. This world will shift as game time passes, new factions will rise and fall, cities can be conquered, razed to the ground, and rebuilt. The passage of time will affect your characters as well. They will grow old and, if they're lucky, retire, and their motives, alignment, and traits will change over time as well. The Iron Oath is set to release sometime during 2020. Tainted Grail is based on the eponymous board game, but it promises to be more than just a transferal of the board game to our computer screens. The setting is a dark fantasy take on the Avalon of Arthurian legend. But neither Arthur nor the Knights of the Round Table are there anymore, and the only thing making human life possible in this realm, the Guardian Manors, are going dark as well. Your village has sent its best on a quest to Camelot, but they have not returned. That's where you and a bunch of other unlikely heroes come into the picture to take on the same quest, the B-Team as it were. Tainted Grail looks very gloomy and ominous and promises a story-focused turn-based exploration and combat experience, set to release in 2020. Solasta, Crown of the Magister, is the second video game on this list that plans to adapt a Dungeons & Dragons rule set, but in this case it's the latest one, the 5.1 edition. It caught my attention with a very fun and funny animated trailer.
I've got him! Ah! No, he's got me.
Way to block my line of sight, idiot.
Solasta plans to add verticality to what has traditionally been a two-dimensional combat surface. The game will allow for a certain amount of third-dimension activities, including dropping things on enemies below or pushing them into chasms. Solasta also promises a fair amount of environmental interaction, as well as attention to light levels and the size of characters. There is no clear release date for Solasta, but considering what already is available on the net, I expect it to either go into early access or full release sometime during 2020.
Alright, now this time people, focus.
Colony Ship, a post-Earth role-playing game, ties up my list thanks in part to its overall idea, but mostly due to its developer pedigree. This game is an isometric party-based RPG taking place in a massive generational spacecraft on its way to colonize a distant planet. The twist to the story is that nobody alive now on the ship will reach that point, since the trip will be taking centuries and cryosleep isn't a thing. You will have to deal with the various political factions and other smaller groups that sprung up after a violent mutiny sometime in the past. This game promises to be heavy with atmosphere and mood, and I believe that the people from Iron Tower Studios can do it, considering how much I absolutely loved their first title, Age of Decadence, which I reviewed back in 2016. Colony Ship, a post-Earth role-playing game, is scheduled for release in the second half of 2020. And a couple of special mentions that aren't coming out in 2020, but you should have your eye on them. Broken Roads, what looks to be an Australian Fallout, Odd Gods, an RPG designed around 90s pop culture, and Small Saga, a JRPG type game in which you adventure as a mouse with a pocket knife as a sword. Those are a lot of super promising titles to look out for this year, and these are just 10 of them. Let's see how many of them I managed to play and cover on the channel for you. Thank you very much for watching. I'm curious, which of the titles on the list were new to you and which are the ones that you are looking forward to in 2020? Let me know in the comments. I've been Steven Ansons, have a great rest of the day and see you next time.